Okay, question for, what's the best rate now to get, right? So you get a pre-approval, you can do a little shopping. Variable or fixed? That's the question. Variable or fixed? Every other month they're dropping the rates, they're increasing the rates. You're going left, you're going right. So what's the move?
Good question. And honestly, like I have this conversation. You could probably imagine how much times I have this conversation
100%.
a day. But the answer is, don't shoot. Right. But it depends, right? And really, what it depends on is, yes, there's things that we could talk about that are like, okay, what's the expectation going forward? If I go variable, will the rates continue to drop? Will I end up the winner?
Yeah.
And then there's also the conversation that needs to be had, which is much less quantitative, which is, are you comfortable? Because going variable, yes, we are expecting that rates are going to continue to go down, and you'll end up with a better rate long term throughout your term length. But are you going to be able to sleep at night?
So let's talk about the pros and cons to that. Let's
100%.
Let's deal with fixed. What's the pros and cons to fix?
So the pros to fix is stability.
Yeah.
You know predictably every single month for however long your term is, what your mortgage payment is going to be. Someone, even like myself, I went fixed and I closed my mortgage 5 months ago. And the reason why I went fixed is because I just want to know what my payment is every single month. It could go down, yes, but it could also go up. I want to play it safe, and I'm going to get lock it in for 3 years. And I'll reapproach this again in that time frame in 2027.
So not to be in your business, you do a 3 or a 5.
Fix. You could do 1 to 5. It could be however long you see fit. There's term lengths from 1 to 5 years. Every term length has its own corresponding rate to it. The reason why I went 3 was the lowest that I would get without it not pretty much compromising my flexibility going forward. So if I went with 5 years, I'd be in that rate for 2 years longer. Yeah. I was like, I'd rather be able to get a new rate.
3 years, at that point, you can, pick a side.
Exactly. I can change. I get to choose again.
Are you doing your own mortgage?
Of course, I did my own mortgage. This is my first time doing my own mortgage.
I love that.
So it was cool, and it was also interesting to kind of be in my client's seat.
Right.
So that was interesting. But yeah, I went fixed for that reason, for literally just the stability aspect. The downside to fixed is, and this is one of the parts of the conversation that I think is really important, is for the term length that you're choosing, do you plan to keep this mortgage for that long of a time frame? Because in the event that you need to break your mortgage, the penalty is much larger.
Right.
So if you take a 3-year term and you break your mortgage, which means, and you break your mortgage by either refinancing or selling your house. And if you break your mortgage 1 year into a 3-year term, and the penalty is now 20 grand, for example, because it can be that large.
Yeah, they got to get their money.
Exactly.
They're waiting for the interest.
And you signed a contract.
Yeah.
And again, this is why when people say, I'm loyal to bank B, C, D, I'm like,
I'm not loyal to any of these
guys.
guys.
Like they're not loyal to you. They're
1,000%.
you're a transaction to them.
Yeah.
So when you break your mortgage 1 year into a 3-year term and they say, okay, here's your $20,000 penalty, shocked you.
Yeah.
But if you had already known, and granted, sometimes we don't know. So maybe that's the benefit of a variable in that case. Is like, you know what, I don't know where life's taking me over the next couple of years, let me just go variable so that in the event that I have to break my mortgage, my penalty is rather minimal.
So when you're signing these contracts, do they not let you know what your potential penalty can be?
So when
is it a percentage? Is it a...
And for fixed...
How do they calculate this?
For fixed, it can be calculated because it's all going to be dependent on when you break that mortgage. But if it's variable, you can calculate what your mortgage penalty would be at any given time because it's going to be strictly 3 months interest of your mortgage payments. And you get your amortization schedule, which shows you how much interest for each payment there is.
Right, so calculate it.
Exactly. But for fixed, you don't know. So that's what makes it expensive. Exactly, pros and cons.
Right.
So if you're someone who, again, is unsure of, okay, maybe I might sell and buy in 2 years, maybe you should go variable in that case. Or get a 2-year fixed term.
Pros and cons to variables, real quick.
Pros and cons to variable, you get to ride the rate down, just like right now. Your payment will presumably go down, or your interest to principal percentage will go down.
Yeah.
Your mortgage becomes more beneficial to you when rates go down.
What's the rate right now?
Right now, it depends on every bank is going to have a different rate, but the overnight lending rate is 3%.
3% from how much did it drop in the
last
like
2
years?
Over like 2%. It's like 2%, I believe.
Yeah, and that's huge for people.
It's huge. That's a lot of relief.
Yeah.
Because remember, it went up. So a lot of people were ending up with a payment that was here and it trickled upward and upward and upward until they got to a point where they were in over their head. And now they're finally kind of coming down and, either restoring balance or maybe they just have relief overall. And that's the benefit, and that's the upside and downside to variable. Is it's great when rates are going down, but like many people experienced a year and a half to 2 years ago, when it went up, it was like, what do I do? It was painful. So that's the benefit and also the detriment to it. And then also you get it's usually a more cost-effective penalty when you are breaking that mortgage.